So you had a referral network, and then as a result of referrals, going through that process, building trust, being consistent with those people, you hit a record week. What happened in that week?
That week I wrote 6 life insurance cases for over $650,000 of annual life premium.
This is not an overfunded IUL that has these big numbers and you're only getting paid on this much. Yeah. You had a full boat week of $650,000, and some people take 4 to 5 years to write $650,000.
Correct.
And you did it in a week.
Correct.
Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Today in studio, all the way from Springfield, Missouri, we've got a very special guest for you. This guy's been in the insurance for 35 years. You're not going to believe me when you see him because he doesn't look old enough to be in the business for 35 years. But trust me, he has. I think he got in the insurance business on the same day he got married, because I think when he gives his anniversary and his insurance start date, it's pretty much the same date. In my mind, it is anyways. I'd like to welcome to the podcast a guest that you're going to be excited about today, Mr. Brian Askins from Springfield, Missouri. Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. This is an honor.
Welcome to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Brian, you've been on before.
Yes.
So for those people who are diehards, if you go back in the archives, you can find this guy before in the past in at least one episode. And you can find that episode here if you want to watch it. Adam's telling me to point here, and there's going to be a link there somewhere. So I'll let Adam do the rest. Brian, 35 years in the business. You are now the CEO of Impact Legacy Group. You're a national organization that supports agents in more than one vertical, yeah?
That's absolutely correct.
Tell me a little bit about that company.
So I absolutely love it. And one of the things I love about it most is how we support agents in multiple verticals. And I'll just kind of name a few of them real quick. In life insurance, whether it be traditional life or the simplified life space, any type of life, the annuities, whether it be any type of fixed annuity, indexed annuity, and also in the Medicare space, Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, everything in the health insurance space under 65, the Affordable Care Act, the short-term medical plans, the Christian health share programs, all the ancillary products. There's just not a product that you can name that you can sell with a life or health contract, life and health license, that we don't have that contract, or we don't have we just have a lot of carriers.
Support for it
and a lot of carriers in those platforms.
Yeah. Now, did it start out like that when you started?
It did not. So the Impact, when we started Impact, it did. But my career, I started out simply in simplified life insurance. For the first 7 years, that's all I sold was simplified life insurance.
Simplified life.
Yeah.
And who was your target market?
My target market was anybody. It was pretty much ages 50 and above. It was age 50 and above. It was simplified life insurance. We sold a lot, some to below 50, but we were selling anything from $1,000 worth of coverage up to $15,000, and
So mostly final expense.
It was all final expense.
Now, were you door to door at that time, or were people coming into an office, or what did that look like?
No, I did not have an office. I worked out of my car, so my car was my office.
Okay.
And I ran a debit route, and for 7 years, and so I was going door to door and to collect premiums. But anytime that I got to a house, if I hadn't visited the house next door, or as I'm traveling from house to house, I would stop and knock doors. So a lot of door knocking back then, and then I always loved when I got to a house to collect a premium if they had guests there, because they would always introduce me to their guest.
Yeah, so that was your in. You went around and collected the monthly premiums. They didn't pay them on automatic bank payment like they do now.
No.
And so you would then turn on the people in the house and say, "Hey,
absolutely,
hey, I'm the guy."
A lot of times they have people visiting from whatever state. This was all in Arkansas at the time.
Okay.
So they may have relatives visiting from Texas or California or Florida or wherever.
Yeah.
And so it was.
Brian, you've been in the business for now 35 years, as I mentioned, and you got started selling, literally going door to door selling small senior life insurance policies, a lot of final expense planning. Today, there's thousands of agents contracted under the Impact banner and under the Impact umbrella. You have team leaders in each of those divisions that you talked about.
Correct.
But you still have a passion and this is because I know you personally.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we do some business together. And you have a passion personally still for life insurance sales that goes above and beyond your now current role as an executive with your organization. Tell me about that purpose and passion and where it comes from, because I think a lot of our people that watch, and if you're watching for the first time today, it's interesting because I was on a meeting earlier this morning with Brian, and we happened to be together today, and he got to speak to our team, our support team, and he was talking about how passion comes out in everything that you do and how it separates you. I heard you give a talk recently at an 8% conference in Springfield in your hometown with Cody, your son. And you got up and delivered one of the most, I'm going to use the word impassioned speeches I've ever seen. And it went and spoke about your passion and purpose and for why you believe being an insurance agent, and particularly a life insurance agent, is such a powerful thing. Where does that come from? Where does that passion come from? And what can something like that do for new agents? First of all, where does it come from for you? And why do you believe so strongly about what that can do for a new agent?
So probably one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about life insurance is when I was the age of 5, my dad passed away when I was the age of 5. And my dad did not have any life insurance. And he had a $700 burial insurance at the funeral home, which paid for majority of the funeral cost. And so I saw my mom struggle all those years, working 3 jobs. My entire childhood, she worked 3 jobs, my entire childhood. And I saw that just trying to make ends meet, and hardest working, individual I've ever met in my life was my mom. And so I saw that, and then once I got into life insurance business, I got to pay a claim pretty early in my career, a death claim. And I just saw the difference it made.
When you say I got to pay a claim, so for new agents, what does that mean?
So I insured an individual, and this individual was killed in an auto accident just a few months later.
Okay.
And I got to deliver back then we got to deliver the checks. Okay. Personally deliver the checks. Okay. And so when I delivered that check to the wife, and I still remember like it was yesterday, and it's been almost 35 years ago now, or it was over 34 years ago now. And watching that lady, when I'm handing this check to her, obviously, it didn't bring her husband back or didn't do any of that. But the change it made, she didn't have to go out to get the 3 jobs. She didn't have to go out and do those things. And it wasn't a large check, but it made a difference in her life. Yeah. And to where she could pay for the funeral, and it made a difference in her life. But I really believe that the reason I've been successful selling life insurance is the passion I have for it. Because like I was saying this morning, people have I think the difference between good and great is the passion you have for something. If people truly, if they know you believe in it, the chance of them believing in it increases drastically.
Yeah. Are you ready to launch your insurance career? Excel Solutions is your go-to leader in life, accident, and health insurance pre-license training. Their cutting-edge e-learning platform is packed with rich content. Think interactive assessments, engaging videos, and customized learning paths, all tailored to your learning style. Being students ourselves, we've trusted Excel now for years to deliver top-notch training, offering high pass rates. Their streamlined prep review courses and the exam simulator are really your secret weapons to nailing the state exam the very first time. Now, you thought it couldn't get any better. Well, it just did. Life Insurance Academy listeners, you receive an epic 50% discount, reducing the regular course fee from $199 to only $99. So, all you have to do is use discount code LIA at checkout at liapodcast.org/Excel. Now, Excel spells XCEL. So don't think about it any longer. Dive headfirst into your insurance career with Excel Solutions' premier pre-license training with that exclusive 50% discount just for you. Get the code, get licensed, and excel in your insurance career. Frank Betchker wrote a book called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And early in that book, and Adam will put a link somewhere here to the book where you can get it. I know I've referenced it a ton of times. If you're watching and you've seen any of our podcasts, I've referenced that book. And he talks about the one factor that changed everything for him. And he used the word called enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. This word enthusiasm, which comes from the word entheos, which means spirit within you. Like it really comes from a Greek word, God within you, the spirit within you, like the passion that comes out of you. And so when I hear you talk about why life insurance and why this industry and how it's changed your life, and I watched you give that speech a few weeks ago, that passion was coming out. And I was thinking, this is inside of him. It comes out of a person. And it doesn't come quickly and easily for new agents because they may never have had that experience of getting the honor, I want to say the word honor, to deliver a check. Because now it's not done that way, right? They literally do a direct deposit typically, or they send a physical check directly to the beneficiary. Sometimes if it's a big traditional case, they may ask if you want to deliver it and they'll still send it to you so you can deliver it. But a lot of that personalization has gotten out of the business a little bit, especially for people who do telesales, who may work leads, and it's not the same type of relationship established where you're sitting at someone's kitchen table or across the couch from them in their living room and spending a couple of hours with them and understanding who they are as a family and seeing their family move around. And they haven't had that honor of delivering that. And so they may not have had that same experience, right, as you. But I saw that come out in you. How does a new agent understand what that can do, what a life policy can do? Can you maybe share some more stories that you can share about how your life and business and how you've actually helped somebody has dramatically changed things for them? It may have been an agent, may have been a client, because I want them to hear some of the stories. Because I believe if they internalize that and they start to realize what this business can actually do for people, it will change things. Because as Frank Betchker said in his book, it leveled him up tremendously. And he just changed it. He decided, I'm going to have passion. I'm going to have enthusiasm. I'm going to speak to this. It's going to flow out of me. That's what I see out of you. How do new agents get that?
So I think one of the things is that I think as a new agent becomes a student of the business, I think being a student of the business is huge. Learning the products, learning them very, very, very well, because it's all about us educating that client on why that coverage is needed. And there's so many different life policies out there nowadays. You know, there's whole life, there's final expense, and there's IULs and there's GULs and ULs and indexed and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There's just all kinds of different life products out there nowadays. It's understanding and education. But for me, it was when I started in the business, I didn't have any lead programs or anything of that nature back in 1990. I started in April of 1990. Didn't have any of those. It was a matter of just sitting down with individuals and having conversations with them, just visiting with them, and finding out what do they love, what do they currently have in place, what are they looking to leave, and then when you start having those conversations with individuals, and when you find out what a person who people love and what they would like to do for that person or what debts they have and they don't want to leave those to the loved ones, all of a sudden you're moving forward. And it's just all about that connection at the beginning of a meeting. And it's not just, hey, how much life insurance do you need? It's having those conversations prior to. I think too many times we're just in a hurry to give a quote. You know?
Oh, we say that all the time on here.
Yeah.
You know, never use the word quote.
we're give them hey, here's what 5,000 costs, 100,000 costs, and 10 million costs. You know, whatever the amounts that you're kind of going with.
Yeah.
And but I think it's those conversations and that really, really make the difference.
You've amassed hundreds and probably thousands of clients over the years, right? I know I did when I was selling full time, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients. Some of them who still call me, text me, message me, email me, especially when there's claims or needs with their policies. And each one of those people have a story. Are there some other memorable stories of some clients that kind of changed things for you, and then that also went into your passion tank for why you do what you do?
It is. So there's another one that where I had insured a lady, and so she had 3 small children, 2 daughters and a son. And so anyway, she was talking about the insurance. And so I mentioned insurance on her children. And she was not too interested at first. And then we ended up doing it a couple of months later. Well, about probably 6 months after I insured all three children, the two daughters were the older two, the son was the younger one. After I insured them, he passed away about 6 months later, the boy did, in an accident.
Oh, no.
Okay, he passed away. And and it was only $10,000. But that was $10,000 to where now she didn't have to go. And back then, I'm not sure if they had GoFundMe and all those type things, back in the 1990s. But she didn't have to go and have a church help pay for the funeral or whoever, go to family, friends, trying to drum up the money to pay for a funeral. She had the money to do that. Another situation, this was another young individual, and this is a family I probably sold more. Back in 1991, I sold 465 life policies in that one calendar year.
It's amazing how you remember these numbers.
I do.
From 1991. How many years ago was that?
A lot. 33 years ago.
33 years ago.
So in 1991,
you know exactly how many policies you sold.
465. And but in that year,
Adam's shaking his head.
Yeah, in that year, I sold so one family, I had more life, they'd given me more referrals than any other family I'd ever have. Okay. And so one day I started counting the referrals from that one family, and I had over 70 policies in place.
70?
70 from that family's referrals. I just became really close to this family. Okay, their last names were the Scotts. And so anyway, and they had a son that I had insured, okay? And so the son, he went to a high school football game. He wasn't playing in it, but attended the game. After the game, they went back and they went to the house there, to somebody's house, and they were partying and they got and they were wrestling and anyway, so he fell up against a coffee table, but they had done some drinking too that night, and which teenagers, they had done some drinking. So they went. So the next morning, or that night, he gets home, and he's not feeling good. So his next morning, his mom takes him to the doctor. Well, the doctor says it's just he's drunk. He's got to sleep it off. Well, goes home, puts him back in the bed. And the young man had passed away that afternoon.
Oh, my gosh.
From a ruptured spleen, which they did not see because the alcohol, they just thought it was, we paid a $25,000 death benefit on that. And again, not a lot of money, but 1992, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
1991, 92, somewhere in that area. Is a lot of money back then. And so when I'm just... And I'll tell you one more, and this was more recently, and this is one of our agents in Springfield. He had an individual he had insured. This individual was in his very early 50s, perfect health, got Preferred Plus ratings, okay? And he sold him a $3.5 million policy, $3.5 million permanent policy. Okay.
So this was like a fully underwritten case.
Fully underwritten case.
A larger case.
$3.5 million. Okay. And this just happened less than 2 years ago. And so this gentleman and his son were out hiking. Okay. And so they're hiking and they had taken their bikes and riding bikes and hiking. They're outdoors. They love the outdoors. Anyway, the dad had a massive heart attack right there with his son, and his son's holding him. And we delivered a $3.5 million. We didn't get to personal delivery. It was, like you mentioned earlier, direct deposit or however they end up paying it. But a $3.5 million policy and $3.5 million worth of death benefit. And then also him and another business partner had bought buy-sell policies to fund a buy-sell. And so that was also paid to her, because now the other gentleman owned 100% of the business. And so she got two pretty large checks. And it just makes a difference. Because I think sometimes, Roger, I'm like, what if that life insurance wasn't in place?
Yeah.
What if it wasn't? Mm-hmm. You just think about trying to replace your income.
Yeah.
And let's just say you're only doing 10 times annual income, and that's, let's say you only do 10. Even if you don't take into consideration of annual salary increases, which you should, but you need some
and inflation.
But I'll tell some people, if you don't have a system to calculate this, just go to lifehappens.org. Just use their calculator. lifehappens.org. Just use that calculator to determine how much life insurance a person needs.
Yeah.
It's out there. But when you start doing these things, you want to talk about selling larger cases, it happens.
Yeah.
So,
Brian, you didn't have leads.
did not.
You did not have leads. You obviously developed a good passion for the business because of situations that happened to you and the fact that you were connected to families. A lot of people that are on that are getting into the business now are coming in. They're doing telesales from home.
Mm-hmm.
COVID kind of made a technology available and got insurance companies' attention. And they made products and new processes a way that you could do things remotely now that you couldn't do before. So a lot of people, especially young people that listen to our content, they get into business because of the lifestyle it can provide them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a slight disconnect in that connection to the individual, the family, because sometimes it can get a little transactional. Let's be honest. We try to help you understand on the Life Insurance Academy not to make it transactional, to make real life human interactions out of transactions and to treat people's real internal need. But sometimes it does get transactional, and people forget that there's people, there's other family members, there's a life, there's a future, there's T-ball, there's Little League, there's ballet classes, there's college, there's grandkids, there's future hopes and dreams, homes, mortgages, cars, payments, like summer vacations, all these things that are on the other side of that, either having it or not having it. And they can also get disconnected from the fact that because of the way that they're processing it through leads that are flowing into a CRM sometimes, and they're just using an automated dialer to have a conversation with Miss Betty, that there's other ways also to have that personal connection. You did not build your business on leads.
Not at all.
You built your business on passion, one person at a time, and you did that through referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Referrals. I want to land here for just a minute. So if we could take this episode and we were to cut this episode down to its core, and we could have clips coming out of this, I would want them to know about the size of the business that you were able to amass, the number of families you were able to help, and maybe even lead to that single biggest week that I know you were a part of just a few years ago because of the referral focus you had in your business. Because a lot of our agents, They if they feel like they're out of leads and they don't have anyone to call, they're out of business. What do you say about that? Are they out of business?
They're not out of business at all. So I've never worked a lead in my life, and again, I'm all for people working leads. I started out in 1990 when I started out. I was selling life insurance, and that's what I sold. Well, I had a buddy in my that I coached baseball with. This is even before Cody got old enough to play baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and so anyway, so I go to him one day and I say, I've got an idea. So I take him to lunch one day, and he was doing property and casualty, so anyway, and I said, hey.
So he was doing homeowners insurance, car insurance.
Correct.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But not life insurance.
But not life insurance.
Okay.
So I go visit with him, and I said, tell me what product and services what is your ideal client? What product and services are you offering your ideal client? And he goes into the home, the auto, and he said, but my real passion, or what I really love is helping farmers with crop health insurance and insuring all their equipments and so forth. But it was the farmers. And I said, do you offer life insurance? He said, Brian, I offer life insurance. He said, but a person's probably going to ask me 4 or 5 times before I'm going to, give
Focus
them a quote. Focus. I don't want to focus on life insurance. And I'm like, bingo. This is, And so anyway, my first cousins were farmers. So I go out and I see my uncle, and I call this gentleman back, and I said, hey, Harry's expecting your phone call. And this gentleman calls Harry, which was my uncle, and I said, and Harry owned the largest farm in Cross County, Arkansas, and so this guy all of a sudden, I'm giving him a massive referral, and so obviously he's going to start referring me back, and he did. We referred business a lot, but one thing I did. So when you get a referral partner, it's taking it a step farther because it's
Hold on, can I pause right there?
Absolutely.
Because I think people miss something there. So you went and talked to somebody, and you didn't say, let's set up a program where you refer me business and I refer you business, and we'll start there. You didn't actually do that. You actually went out, found out what he did, what he didn't do, found out where there's an opportunity for you to bring him value first. And you actually brought him a case first, and you never asked for a referral.
Not yet.
Do you see the difference there? So he was bringing value first, and the value then was reciprocated. Right? The value is reciprocated after you brought value first. And I want you to get that. A lot of people, because of our transaction society feel like there has to be an equal reciprocation at the same time, or I'm not going to do anything if they're not going to do anything with me. Brian, that's some old school thinking that I think goes a long way. I believe in that. Like I always say, you're going to find very few people that will outvalue me. Like if you get into a relationship with me, I'm going to be trying to bring more value to that relationship than is coming the other way, because then people are always endeared to you. They want to work with you because of the value you bring in. What happened as a result of all that?
So what I did was, there's one key thing here. So just as you just said, so when you have that relationship, so what I want to do is I want to find out what his ideal referral was. And then also, secondly, I want to find out what information he needed. And I'm taking notes the entire time he's talking. And so after I sent him that referral, I got home that night and I got on, back then it was a typewriter, and I got on a typewriter.
He's dating himself.
Yeah, I got back on the typewriter and I created a document. And the document was one that said it basically all the information he needed for me to send him. And so I got that document, and then I created a document of what my ideal referral is and what information I needed. I created 2 sheets of paper. I then faxed those 2 pieces, because back then it was fax. I faxed those 2 pieces of paper to him, and I put a cover letter on there. I'll call you tomorrow morning. And so when
that was it. He's got 2 faxes.
2 faxes. He got 3 sheets of paper, the cover sheet,
one said I'll call you,
and then the 2 documents. So the next morning, I said, "Hey, I took the liberty to let you. I'm going to start referring you a lot of business, so I'm going to make copies of this document that I've created. Is there anything you'd like to see change on this?" And so I had a fact finder back then, and I took this sheet and I put it in every fact finder. Okay, so every time I was with a client, I was automatically asking about home, auto, if they owned a farm, they owned because he did business insurance, any type of commercial insurance.
Yeah.
And it was so easy for me to refer them because
you had exactly what he needed.
I had exactly what he needed. So I would get the basic information that he needed. And then every night when I got home, I was faxing him the forms that I filled out that day.
He was getting free leads.
So what do you think he started doing to me?
Referring back.
And so, because I'd already given him my ideal referral, what my ideal referral looks like, and the information I would need. Yeah. So a lot of times we talk about it, but there's no action from either side because nobody built a system. Nobody built a process.
Or offered value first, even.
Or offered value first.
Yeah.
But so I built a system, I built a process. So then I worked 7 years for Reliable Life, and then I went 17 years with Mutual Omaha. But after my Mutual days, and so I started a company called Secure Insurance Group, and this was back in 2014. 2014. So when I started Secure, I'm having to replace a very large income. Okay, because I started at zero back, after being in the business for 24 years.
Yeah,
and I started at zero. So I started my own referral group, and that's when I started with 3 people. The next week there was 4. The next week there was 5.
What does that mean? A referral group?
So it's kind of like the audience will know Business Network International, which is a great referral. BNI, and then MOB, Masterminds of Business, another great one. I'm one that I started to join BNI or started to join MOB, but I'm like, I want to develop my own because I want to pick and choose who was in my group. And so that was very important to me to pick and choose who was in my group. And so what I did was I started this group, and I had a real estate agent in there, a commercial real estate agent in there, I had a business broker in there, had a mortgage loan officer in there, had an estate planning elder law attorney in there, and just all these multiple occupations. And this thing just blew up. I mean, it really, 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 and it's still going today. 10 years later, it's still rolling.
So tell me what did that look like? You started your own group. People that are listening, they don't know. Are they just calling people and say, "Do you want to refer people?" What was the format of this group?
That's great. So so what we did was we met every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. for breakfast at the country club I was a member of. Okay.
Did it matter where you met?
We met at the country club. It didn't really matter. You meet anywhere. We started out in a little breakfast place right there just around the corner from where our office was.
Like just a breakfast restaurant or just a diner or something like that?
They had a little private room, okay, a little private room. And so we started out, and the first meeting was 3 of us. And then we all asked each other to to bring somebody the next week. And so next week there was 4 and then 5 and, and then eventually it was up to 20
And
something.
you didn't want competing careers in there.
Correct.
So you kept them distinct.
So I was the life, health, Medicare agent in there. We did bring in a financial advisor at the time. We brought in a financial advisor. We brought in, back then I wasn't focused, we weren't doing property and casualty. So we brought in a property and casualty agent. So we brought in, so there was 3 individuals in the insurance and financial services industry, but we all had
in different sectors.
Yeah, absolutely. We all had our roles. And then, but the real key to that was this right here is, we would all get, get a 60-second commercial each week, to talk about.
You made the ground rules, and one of them was a 60-second.
Yeah, so we got to give our ideal referral. Who our ideal referral? We got to promote something. Like if it was Medicare season, I'd promote Medicare. If it was health, open enrollment for ACA, I'd focus on that. I focus a lot on on life insurance. A lot of mine were on life insurance, and so we got to do that. But we're the real, and each week we would have a special. We would have one of those individuals. We'd put a spotlight on that person to where they would have 15 minutes to present
what they do,
their business, in a more in depth. But where the real key value is this, and this is where people miss it. It's that one-on-one connection to where every single week we required the members to go to breakfast or to lunch or to coffee or dinner. I don't care what it is. Outside of the group, you had to meet with at least one person at least once a week.
Okay. So you had 2 meetings a week now?
2 meetings.
Okay.
And
one one-on-one and one with the group.
One group and at least one-on-one. And so I always did mine for coffee in the morning, because I love early mornings. And so I'd meet with somebody at 7 a.m. and I'd probably do it 2 or 3 times a week because, I'd still be at the office around 8 o'clock. And but that one-on-one connection, that's where you're really building that relationship. That one-on-one connection, you're really learning what they do. It's hard to learn what somebody does in 60 seconds.
Correct.
Even 15 minutes is hard because you're not. It's that personal connection to where when we did that, that's where the real value came, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this. I've made over $1 million from that referral group alone.
Wow. Well, I know that led to a lot of business being developed, and I know it led to 1 week where you had a lot of these kind of coming to a head at the same time, and you had your record week, and it was all referral based.
100%.
I don't know how long after you started a network before this happened. How many years after you started a network before you had that record week?
I would say it was about 4.5 years or so.
So you had a referral network, and then as a result of referrals going through that process, building trust, being consistent with those people, you hit a record week. What happened in that week?
That week I wrote 6 life insurance cases for over $650,000 of annual life premium.
$650,000. Now, this is target premium or whole life or term premium. This is not like
that was
overfunded.
That was target premium.
This is not an overfunded IUL that has these big numbers and you're only getting paid on this much. Yeah. You had a full boat week of $650,000, and some people take 4 to 5 years to write $650,000.
Correct.
And you did it in a week.
Correct.
So a 4.5 year investment pays off. You're in your 5th year, and if you had to annualize that, you're adding $115,000 a year all the way back to day one. So that referral group turned out to be pretty good.
Yes, it did. And there was a lot of business written prior to that. A lot of business.
How many of you would like to have a $615,000 week in 1 week on 6 applications and buy no leads? How many? Right? He did it. If he can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Brian, what's the secret? Let's tie the passion and the referral together, because I know that stemmed out of this passion that we talked about earlier. And I believe a lot of agents are trying to get by on just learning and memorizing scripts, lead flow, and they don't understand the power of passion, and they don't understand leaning into the industry, leaning into what you're doing to create that separation of you from the pack. Because we've all heard that 92% of agents fail, 8% really make it. But in this business, This is one of the most lucrative businesses, one of the most rewarding businesses. It's changed my life. It's changed the trajectory of my family's life. I know it's changed your life and your family's life. I know your family. I know your kids. I even know some of your grandkids. If it can do that for us, it can do it for them.
No doubt.
What do they need to do to reignite the passion, and how does that tie to this referral concept to make it all work? What do they need to know? If you were talking directly to them right now, what do they need to know from your perspective on all this?
So I personally believe it's all about networking. And I truly believe the people who are great networkers, they really separate themselves. And you say, well, I'm not a good networker. It's hard. I can't do this. I'm telling you, it's so easy. It is so easy. I'm gonna give you some. You remember I talked about that one guy that was doing the PNC?
Yes.
Well, I'm like, well, this works. I'm going to go down here, and so I went and met with the Nationwide guy. His name was Louis Peeler, so anyways, he had our home and auto insurance for years, and so I go meet with Louis, and I said, Louis, I'd like to find out what you do. I know you sell home and auto because we've got, back then we were renting a home, but renting an apartment, so we had renters coverage, and then we had auto insurance. And he starts telling me, and he mentions life insurance. And I'm like, my heart just sunk because I did not want him to say life insurance because that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. So I didn't stop there. I said, let me ask you a question. Every case that you write, do you get it issued? Obviously, I already knew the answer to that.
Yeah.
He said, no. And I said, and we had a guaranteed issue policy back then. And I said, if you don't have a case, if you have a person that you run across that you can't help, I don't care if it's because you're not competitive, because they got declined, got rated to where they didn't accept the plan. I don't care what the reason. Would you be willing to refer those individuals to me? Would you refer just those individuals to me? He said, absolutely. Well, I started getting referral 2 or 3 times a month from him, and sometimes more often than that. But I was sending him stuff also. Yeah. But now I'm kind of splitting my home and auto between a couple.
You're splitting your referrals.
Yeah, but I just had to pick up on the number of people I was, referring, which I was referring somebody every day,
Yeah.
And but he started sending those to me. So just think about people in our, because like there's people out there right now that all they sell is health insurance, and you're selling life insurance. That's a referral partner for you. There's people out there that sell Medicare, and that's a referral partner if you're doing life insurance. There's there's people out there that could send you a ton of referrals. Just think of loan officers. Just think of loan officers, people who help business brokers. One of the best resources or referral sources I've ever had was a business broker, and so this every time he helped people buy and sell businesses. Well, what does people need when they buy a business?
They need insurance.
They need insurance to cover that loan. That's what the loan officer wants that.
Yeah.
And so I got every one of those phone calls.
Brian, I know you believe passionately about the referral piece, and I know inside of your organization, inside of Impact Legacy Group, there's multiple verticals, and some people run in one lane, and there's a referral opportunity, a referral program to another division. Talk about how that's set up inside your company, because I know that you've mirrored that now inside of Impact so that your agents that are working as partners with Impact can refer business and still receive benefit back. Can you talk a little bit about that inside of Impact?
Absolutely. So let's just say an individual's in the final expense market. Obviously, the final expense market, they're dealing with a lot of people who are 65 and above.
Yeah.
Okay. Those individuals also need or have Medicare, okay? And so we have a very large Medicare division, and we have a referral program to where they can refer that client over to the Medicare division and still get paid on that Medicare sale, still have a referral bonus on that Medicare sale. The same thing with our retirement team, and Roger, this has probably been one of the best things we've ever done. There's some months that we're paying out in excess of $40,000, $50,000 a month. Some months even much greater numbers than that. $40,000 or $50,000 is kind of a norm number of commissions out to agents just referring business to the retirement team, and to where they're getting 50% of the sale, and they're not having to do anything whatsoever except refer. And what the beauty is, they can sit in on all the appointments and learn the retirement process. The index annuities and whatever other products are, it could be long-term care. It could be some type of hybrid long-term care. Life with the long-term care rider, or annuity with the long-term care rider. It could be one of the hybrid products, which are absolutely just tremendous. But regardless of so everything that's sold, they get 50% of it. So they can be a part of the process and continue to learn. So we've had agents who couldn't spell annuities. Mm-hmm. Okay, they couldn't spell retirement planning. And then after they watched it 10, 12, 15 times, now these agents are doing it on their own and producing $3 and $4 million worth of annuity business on their own now. And some of them want to continue to stay in their lane, and they want to continue selling final expense or Medicare or whatever they're doing, and don't want to mess with their retirement, but they still want the income that it can generate from those, because they're already in front of the client.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is get in front of a client. So once you're in front of a client, you might as well take advantage of those opportunities.
And so by creating that opportunity for the referral inside of your organization, it makes for a very easy transition for the agent then to represent the entire client's needs, not just that specific vertical, not just that specific need that they may have filled out a card for or request some information on or filled out an online form for. Now you're extending that conversation beyond just the life insurance, and it opens up a lot of doors.
We had several, and I don't know the numbers. I wanted several that made more money from the referrals than they made from the vertical they were running in,
and they didn't actually do the work,
and didn't do any of the work over here.
That's awesome.
More money from the referral that they gave to the retirement team than from the vertical, whether it be Medicare or final expense, whatever they're running in.
Yeah, so that's incredible.
Under 64 health insurance.
That's incredible. Guys, can you tell he's passionate about his business? Can you tell that he's a little bit fired up about what the industry can do? Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today.
Can I read one thing real fast?
Yes, you can. You can.
I think you know what I showed it to you earlier here.
Uh-huh.
I want to. So somebody gave me a card back in 1990, and I went and had a bunch produced, and unfortunately I gave my last one out, and I never went and got it, and I need to go get it done again because I love this right here. And so this sells I Sell Life, or the title of this is I Sell Life Insurance. I Sell Life Insurance. Other salespeople are limited. They just sell furniture, appliances, cars, or shoes. I sell those things too, and I sell many things more. I sell meat, bread, and milk for the table of a family deprived of a father or mother. I sell canceled mortgages so that mother or father and the children can live comfortably. I sell college educations to give youngsters better opportunities in life. I sell the little extras, ice cream cones, rollerblades, movie tickets, and a dress for the prom. I make life worth living. I sell time with grandchildren, golf clubs, fishing tackle, exciting trips, retirement income, and self-respect for later years. I sell the necessities and good things in life because life insurance is for the living. Yes, I sell life insurance, and pardon me if my pride is showing.
Pardon me if my pride is showing.
But one of the things, Roger, too, I'll say this last thing is we talked about earlier that, they're losing a loved one, the children.
Yeah.
But when life insurance is not in the picture, really they lose two. They lose the mother and the father because the mother has to go out and pick up extra jobs and so forth to try to make ends meet. So
yeah, and I've heard you say that about your own mom because when you lost your dad, you said you kind of really lost your mom because she was gone so much trying to provide for the needs of your family. She was not present there for you.
Very true.
So, guys, we're in an honorable business. In this life insurance industry that we're in a very honorable business. It's one of the most beneficial and impactful things that you can do for somebody is to help them put protection in place for the times when they need it the most right now while they're cognizant, while they're able to provide so that when they're not able to, when they're not cognizant, or when they have a tragedy that happens or a serious accident or illness, that there's funds there to protect their family. And I know a lot of you guys watch and a lot of you ladies watch our podcast because you're trying to get tips on how to make it another month or how to break into the business. I want to let you know there's people like Brian out there and who are professionals at the highest level who've dedicated their life to this industry. And they're making major differences now in the lives of other people. But it all stems back to this one simple concept that what we do matters. It makes a difference. And if you believe that to be true, whether you're working a lead, whether you're in the Medicare space, the life insurance space, whether it's simplified issue or fully underwritten, or you're just trying to figure this all out, please know that you make a difference in other people's lives. And if you can internalize that belief and let that flow out, gaining referrals, talking about what you do, extending the conversation beyond insurance is not going to be difficult. It will not be difficult, and you'll have a long, illustrious career like our guest here, Brian Askins. Brian, how can they reach you if they want to reach you? What's a way that they can reach out to you and connect with maybe an opportunity with your business or just to get some questions answered from your perspective? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Our website, impactlegacygroup.com. And then the phone number, office phone number is 417-883-9300.
9300.
And then also they can email me at Brian, BRIAN .Askins at impactlegacygroup.com.
Thank you so much, Brian, for being here. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys found this interview valuable, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast.